Again, welcome everybody. It's good to get present. So let's take a moment because there's so much shuffling around we do to get present for classes, and we have this Zoom. And how does it really work? So let's take a moment and come onto your seat, whatever posture feels the most settling right now. We've got this beautiful practice on how to have a way to sit down so that we can lift in our front body, find our breath, and release that which we don't need. So let's just take a moment here to come fully into this space together. This slowing down is such a key ingredient of our practice. This past year, there has been so much of a pull into the digital, so many different stressors throughout the country, throughout the world, that activate our reactivity, really pull us into our sympathetic nervous system, the fight or flight, which we are often pulling from throughout the day, anyhow, and it's exhausting. And in this practice, we have that gift within moments of taking the Iyengar yoga, the exquisite focus on alignment, helps bring the mind back into balance with our body, and then we can have the breath come. And so our consciousness spreads with our breath into our back body. And from there, we have so much more presence and ability to be our whole selves. So there's a real sense of belonging more so to ourselves that comes with the practice, and to our whole selves, and to our community as well. So my hope for tonight was to slow down with you all, and then to because there are a good amount of people that signed up, and I realized I wasn't going to be able to take that many questions and it would be a little scattered. I talked to a few students that I work with, and a couple of students, and I asked if they would be willing to talk with me in front of you all about their practice and their path and what's been supportive of them, so that to give you a sample of what the conversation could be like for you with a teacher, and to touch in maybe in some key themes that have been happening for you. So I wanted to do a little talking um, before we move into an asana practice and move into our chants, our usual Iyengar chants, and then an asana practice. And that's how I designed for tonight. The asana practice is going to be very basic, because my hope is to be not introducing brand new poses, but rather to really have us come fully conscious as to how the poses affect us. And then to even talk about how we can set ourselves up to perhaps play and use those poses to meet ourselves with where we're at when we're going through our day. So that is my thought. So again, let's just take a moment, even if you want to close your eyes for a moment. Slowing down and sinking into your presence. And then let's gently, if you've closed your eyes, begin to open them. And I wanted to just take this moment after we talked for a while to really sense into what's happening with us, so that at the end of the practice we can notice how the practice has affected our emotional state and our overall energy. Let's bring our hands together now in Namaskar. Reach the sit bones down once again. Lift the ribs. Pull from the back at the shoulder to your elbow, activating that tricep. Yeah. Hopefully, as you do that and you press through your hands to widen your collarbones, you begin to feel your shoulder blades. We're now bringing in our body into the act here. We're listening so much, and our minds were active. Now we're engaging our body, bringing our mind closer into it. You feel that with this beautiful practice. And then let's release our eyelids down. We'll chant the most sacred of Om 3 chants through Om. We'll chant the most sacred of chants, Om, 3 times. You can imagine the Om going from the base of your spine up through your chest and resonating with the in your head. It can be such a warming sensibility as we go inside together. And then we'll chant the invocation all in unison. This is a chant that is an invitation. If this does not call to you to chant, please feel free not to. Okay, so let's inhale. Yogena chitasya parena vacham malam sharirasya chavaijakena yopakarotam pravaram muninam patanjalim pranjaliranatosmi Abahu Proshakaram Shankha Chakra Siddharinam Sahasra Shirasam Shvetam Pranamami Patanjalim Hare Om. Keeping the front of the body lifted and the collarbones spread wide. Inhale. And on the exhale, bow your head in towards your heart. A real releasing of the mind in towards your breath. And then relax your hands to your thighs. Inhale, lift the front of the body. And okay. So now let's begin our asana practice. I'm going to move my camera so I can see better. I'm hoping people have a chair readily available. And let's take that chair. I wanted to start off by introducing a couple of poses that maybe you know and are common, you're used to, but it's a couple of poses that I really like to do when I've been sitting at my computer and I need to get a little bit of refreshment, but I'm not ready to get up and do an actual full pose. So I'd like to do them together. So it's where I have a blanket on my chair and I can just demonstrate so you can see first. I clasp my hands behind my back, but this is the setup of sitting down with the heels underneath the knee. So let's get set up to do that. I come over here and I lean down, it's because I'm just checking where everybody's at and what's happening here. Okay, it looks like everybody's got a chair or some version of a chair. It's gonna work. Okay, great. The one thing is if you do, it'll be interesting if you don't have anything like this, because we're gonna take a twist in it too. If you don't have, but maybe there's a way you can still do it. There definitely is. We can figure it out. Okay, move this down a little bit. Okay, so this back side of the body is Paschima, the west side of the body. I think when yogis used to wake up, the front of the body, Purva, east side of the body, where they would rise up and they would do their asana with the sun rising, west sun setting. So let's take Paschimottanasana Baddha, bound fingers. Over the chair rung if possible. If there's not a chair rung, it's still fine. Reach the buttocks down. Pull on the clasp, roll the shoulder back. And then turn the pinky edge of the hand down towards your back as you lift the thumb side up. You'll feel your mid-back come in. Whew. I don't know about you, but this is a real opening in the shoulder girdle for me. So this is what we often do at the beginning of classes, is open up this whole neck and shoulder area. And it's so good when we've been sitting on the computer, and then you can release that, change the clasp. And it's also really important to do before, if you're going to do a pose in the middle of the day, to do some shoulder opening. Reach the buttocks down once again. Pull on the clasp, rolling the shoulders back. Then turn the palms once again. If that's not accessible, you could just keep the hands clasped. See what's going to be. No, let's not injure. Since I can't see everybody, you might not be able to turn the hands, and that's fine. This takes a good amount of wrist mobility, and for me, it took a good amount of practice. So see where you're at today, and then release. And then let's turn. You might not, I noticed some people are taking ottoman kinds of things, and so it's going to be a little difficult to find something to clasp onto. So I'll demonstrate first. What I'm going to do is reach my arms up, Urdhva Hastasana, and I'm going to turn. So let's say you don't have armchairs and you're using an ottoman. I guess, it's going to be a little bit more challenging. You can still do it, but you'll have to, or maybe you can move yourself to a wall and use one hand at the wall to get some traction with your arms. These extensions, these are our arms, our karmandriyas, our organs of action can really help with the twist. So let's come to sit on our chair, reach the buttocks down so that the abdomen pulls back, and extend the arms up, Urdhva Hastasana. Reach from the elbow down to your inner shoulder, and then ignite up from the elbow to the fingertips. Bring the arms slightly back in space, and you can feel the shoulder blades help open the chest. Inhale, and on the exhale, turn, elbows wide. Now, notice the sit bone on the opposite side away from the rungs is now lifting. Push that down. Lift the brunt of the body. So let's just get some length first, and then roll the shoulders back. Get some width. Length and width, so we're not going to be impinging on the vertebrae, but the spine is long and lifted. Now inhale, and then begin to turn. Use your arms to help turn the ribs. Open up the opposite side chest. And then notice, are you straining in your neck? Let your chin release. Press the rungs down, or whatever traction you have there. Lift the ribs even more. Inhale, and then turn a little bit more, but keep your gaze. You don't need to force your look over your opposite shoulder. You don't need to do that. You can look even in line with the sternum if your neck hurts at all. And then let's release, turn to face forward. So that's a twist, Veerabhadrasana. Veerabhadra was a sage, which is definitely wise to do a twist a day. And then turn around in your chair, especially if you have rungs. If you just have that other thing, maybe that's not what you need to do. Reach your buttocks down, arms up, Urdhva Hastasana. I'm going to come over, see what's happening, people. Yes. Okay. Move from the inner elbow down towards your inner shoulder, and then from the elbow up through the fingertips. Turn the palms backwards a little bit, the thumbs out to the side a little bit, so you can feel the spreading in the collarbone. And then you can turn the palms to face each other, but keep that bicep rolling out. There we go. Inhale, exhale, turn towards the chair rungs or whatever the opposite direction is before. Elbows out to the side. Reach the opposite away from the rungs, buttocks down. And then as you reach that down, lift the spine, roll the shoulders back, and then use your arms to help you with the twist. So we're turning, shoulders are level, relax down away from the ears. Neck is soft, and allow your breath to begin to fill the pose. Notice if your shoulders are creeping up around your ears. Release them. Yes, yes, yes. So important because it's the sternum. It's here the lungs are leading the way. We do all this work in the poses and then let the breath and the lungs be supported by that work to open. Okay. And then turn back to face forward. I'm going to demonstrate that once more, and I'm going to show you just because this twisting is so crucial for our mental health, for our vibrancy. So I'm just going to demonstrate based upon something that I'm seeing. I hate to have my back towards you, but I think I will demonstrate better that way. So the twists are just really critical. So what I'm noticing is a lot of shoulders up here. So even before we twist, let's lift the front of the body, release the shoulders down, and then twist. So the twist is coming from the ribs, and we're not going like this and bending our back out, but rather we're keeping the upliftment and the spreading wide as we turn. So let's try that once again. Okay, sitting in our seat. Yes, let's bring the arms up again. I didn't demonstrate. Let's do that. Urdhva Keep the buttocks moving down though. Notice when the arms come up, the abdomen flies forward. So keep the buttocks moving down, keeping the abdomen back, then turn towards the chair rungs, bring the hands down, and then keep your gaze over your knees for a moment and lift the front of the body. Roll the shoulders back and down. Find this width and extension and try to keep it as you now, working with your arms, begin to turn. One arm is pulling the ribs around. I know some of us are facing different directions, so I won't use left, right. The other arm is opening up the other side chest. Yeah, keep those shoulders down. Spine is lifted. Lungs are full. We're giving some real space to breathe into here. Enjoy your twist with your breath. And then turn to face forward. And let's swivel around to go the other way. With your hands on your thighs, now reach the buttocks down, then bring the arms up. Urdhva Hastasana. Inner shoulder comes down, fingertips go up. You even turn the hands out a little bit so that you can get that width. That's experience of width in the chest that we want when we do the twist as well. Okay, inhale. On the exhale, turn and bring the arms down. Then bring your gaze back over your knees. Feel the lift in the spine, the shoulders moving back. Yeah, and then turn. Begin to turn the ribs. Yeah, I see. And often when we turn, we then shrink a little bit. So then inhale, lengthen. Exhale, turn. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, turn. Yeah, seeing so much more expansion here. So much more expansion, which just affects our overall vibrancy. Okay, and then turn back to face forward. Let's come out of our chairs and move into Arda Uttanasana. So Arda Uttanasana, you can turn your chair around as the half forward fold, and it looks like an L shape. Now, for some of us, that mid back is really high. And that, how are we going to breathe into the pose? So when I'm like this, I get frustrated and annoyed. This is not going to help me breathe and feel light and long. So I might need to put my hands up higher. So do whatever you need to do. If you need to go to a countertop to get the hands higher than your mid back, please do that. And then step back until you make this L shape. So I hope everybody's here with me now. Looking down at your toes, this is a perfect time to really come into our legs. So spread the ball of the foot. Press the center heel down until you see the arch lifting. This is so key to the vibrancy and the health of our inner organs, this arch in the foot. So let's practice it here. Notice your kneecaps. See that they're tightening. Now draw the buttocks away from the low back. So in other words, have the tailbone coming in and the abdomen lifting. With your arms now, press the arms so that the hands into the chair rung so that you're getting the bottom of the elbow tip that's facing the floor moving towards each other. And the chest, you have that right action. It's the upper arm rotation we often work on. So that the chest and the back are spreading. We took a lot of actions there so we have open lungs here and can breathe into our pose. Now as another action, lift the front of the body even more so in the ribs forward. Lengthen through the neck like you're a turtle coming out of its shell and look slightly forward, but hips stay back. Okay, and then let's come to step forward and out of that pose. Okay, now let's work on Veerabhadrasana 2, Warrior 2 pose. Let's have, you can set your blocks up at the back edge of your mat because we're going to do a few other poses too that we'll need them there. And since we're moving around, now would be the time to do that. But for Warrior 2, we actually don't need the blocks, so you can have them off the mat. See, the camera's good so you can see what's happening here. Move it over a little bit. Okay. So Warrior 2, let's start off though. Warrior 2. Oh, yeah, let's start off though. You know what? I realized first I wanted to do Vrikshasana because there's such a quieting of the mind that happens with tree pose. And I just skipped it for a moment. So for tree pose, I'd like us to have a wall at our side. So why don't you start with the right side at the wall, and we'll begin. You can bring the other thumb, the right side of the wall, left thumb at the sacrum. We have our feet together. Spread the metatarsals like we were just doing. Press the center heel down and tighten those kneecaps. Now reach the buttocks. You could say even the middle buttocks. I like that terminology. It helps me. Reach the middle buttocks in and lift the front of your body. Lift the front of your body. Okay, now turn, so we have the right hand at the wall, turn the left foot out, pick up the left heel and bring it either to your shin or your thigh. Try not to have it resting on the knee. And bring your left hand in front of your thigh. Now you might notice your right hip is falling out to the wall. So press down through the right heel and bring that hip away from the wall. Then bring your hand in front of your thigh. So as the hip comes in, extend out through the knee, out through the groin. And then from there, with the middle buttocks as anchor, lift the ribs, turn the ribs, lift the ribs. Then slide that hand up the wall, bring the other arm up. Turn the hand, if you're feeling some balance here. And if you're not, just do slightly away from the wall. Because the amount of quiet you'll find in your mind while you're trying to balance is quite noticeable in this pose. If you can, turn the hands to face each other, Urdhva. Notice with that leg, the mountain leg, how it's the Tadasana leg. That's like a tree trunk lifting you up. And release what you don't need. So soften in your eyes, in your brow. And then bring your arms and leg down. And let's turn around to go the other way. Noticing perhaps that something's shifted dramatically with the balancing poses that happens. Okay, with I believe your left hand is at the wall. Turn the right foot out. See, is it your left hand? Yeah, it's the opposite. Bring the foot up to the thigh or the shin, bending the knee, and bring the hand on that side with the bent leg in front of the thigh. Press the thigh into the hand into the thigh, and notice that the opposite hip isn't leaning to the wall. So center heel on that one. Okay, and then lift the ribs and turn them away from the bent knee. Okay, then slowly bring the arms up. Turn the hands if you can, but don't if you're going to injure it all. Yeah. There we go. So that grounding in the straight leg and then the whole lifting up in the front of the body. Let the shoulders release though, so your neck is free. And then soften your gaze, soften what you don't need. Over time, you can experiment with lengthening the amount of time you're in this pose. It's the tree pose. And then bring your arms and leg down. Okay, now we'll do Veerabhadrasana One. So stand in the middle of the mat. Now, if you have any low back issues or you're menstruating and you're a heavy part of the cycle, don't jump. But if you are feeling like your energy is just very low, I know we're coming towards the end of the day, but it can be a real, especially if you're practicing in the middle of the day, but even still, even for evening in the evening, there's a way in which we can lift up of that out of that heavy energy that I feel more so from the level of isolation that I've had in this experience thus far. So bend your knees. I invite you to jump if you can feel safely that you can do it. Okay, turn the left foot in slightly, turn the whole right leg out. Then pick up the hips so that they're level. So we take these basic cues. So this would be the first phase of the pose. Tighten those kneecaps and lift the front of the body. Now turn the palms up to the ceiling for the moment. And bring the arms slightly back. Can you feel your pelvis is open? Now your chest is really open. Shoulder blades are helping. Keep the shoulder blades like they are, really hugging in and helping with the lift in the chest. You're getting all of us involved in this pose. Turn the palms down though. Now with the left rib stamped back and the left heel pressing down. That's where our mind is in this pose. Keep that engaged as you bend in your right knee. Now notice if you're not able to come into a right angle, but the knees you're not coming into that right angle, most likely the pose didn't start off long enough. Slide that foot back. Now, how do we come back into the legs? It's press the left thigh back, pull the left ribs back, lift the front of the body, and from here, look out over your middle right finger. So in this pose, the left side of the body is really where our mind is, our stability, as we look to see what's to come. So we're practicing equanimity. And then straighten the right leg, turn the feet forward. Let's go the other way. Turn that right foot in slightly, left leg out. Pick up your hips so that they're level. Bring the right ribs back as you stamp the right heel down. So your mind's eye is really on that stabilized part of the body. Turn the palms up so we get the shoulder blades involved. Bring the arms back. So we have upliftment and spreading in the chest. Turn the palms back down. Keep the focus on the right side of the body and bend in your left knee. Come into that right angle. Now, once we've moved, we're no longer as present in our legs. So now press the right thigh back. Reach out from the right thigh to the knee, just like we did in Vrikshasana. Lift the front of the body and look out over your middle left finger. Oh, yes. Yeah, I can see there's this practice of equanimity. It's in the body, but there's a felt sense to when we have to what we're practicing that carries over. And then straighten the left leg. Turn your feet forward and jump or step your feet together. Okay, now let's take Trikonasana. So this will be good to have the blocks. Let's start off though, standing into Tadasana, recovering into Tadasana. Gonna make sure that I'm pinned. No, I am. Anne is no longer pinned. Yari, are we good? I'm just looking at your screen. Okay, good. Okay, so let's take Trikonasana. Standing first into Tadasana. We always, when we're moving from one pose to another like this, first have our Tadasana. So the ball of the foot is spread, thighs lifting, middle buttocks is in. And as Anne said, we have this refreshing upliftment starting from the base, moving up. Then bend your knees, bend your elbows, jump as wide as you did before. Turn your left foot in slightly, whole right leg out. Pick up your hips. Let's come in with straight legs and straight arms so that the outer limbs are helping give us some ease in this pose. Keeping the front of the body lifted, extend out through the right ribs. Bring your hand onto the block. Reach the left arm up. Now we've moved. Are we fully back in our legs? So see that the kneecaps are tightening. Even lift and spread your toes so you can come into your legs actively. Bring the middle buttocks in, lengthen the ribs, and lift the lungs. From here, see how your neck is feeling. You can continue gazing forward. But if you're feeling any strain in your neck, you can look down at your foot. It can really ease neck tension. But a lot of us have much more engagement with our computers, and this might be helpful. I know often we look up in this pose, but considering what a lot of us are doing, it can be helpful to look down at the toe with the opposite eye. So you look at the right little toe with the left eye and lengthen the neck. Okay, to come out, press through the back heel, reach up through the fingertips, turn your feet forward. Then let's turn the feet the other way. Right foot in, left leg out. Our extended triangle. Tighten the kneecaps, lift the front of the body so we come in with some lightness. Extend out through the left ribs. Bring your hand onto the block. Other hand up to the ceiling. Okay, we've moved. So now we need to go again from the base, lifting the toes and spreading them if that helps. That helps me almost in all my standing poses, get right back into my legs. It's that grounding. Then I bring the middle buttocks in, more grounding, anchor. From there, I can lengthen the ribs and lift the lungs. So the part where we are now activating all the alignment, we turn our head as feels best in this pose today. Then let your breath take over the place. Let the breath lead the pose. And then press through the back heel, reach up and out through the fingertips, turn your feet forward and jump your legs together. Now I'm going to invite you and I'll demonstrate. So there is Abhijata Iyengar, introduced in the conference in last spring. She introduced the use of a wall facing it, and she talked about how it can really give this sense of emotional security and containment. But many of us might not have a clear wall. We didn't ask in the email for you to have a clear wall available. So if you don't, you wouldn't do it, but I'll demonstrate in case you do. And we will only do this one pose like this just to give you that option, just so that you understand if you have the capability and you have the wall here, how it's going to be a different kind of experience when you have the wall in front of you like this. If you don't have a wall and that's not available to you right now, you'll just practice it as we just did. Okay? So if you do want to practice it facing the wall, it is a different experience. And then you can, one day when you're experimenting with your poses, do a whole variety of poses facing the wall. You could also have the heel at the wall. It gives a different sense of stability and sense of self and space. Okay, so now let's separate the legs like we do in Trikonasana. Turn the left foot in, right leg out. Pick up the hips at their level. Okay, keeping the arms and legs straight. Extend out through the right ribs. Bring your hand down under either on your shin or on your block. If you're facing the wall, you can bring the left hand to the wall for a moment, bend to elbow. Now lift and spread your toes so you're in your legs. Middle buttocks comes in. Lengthen your ribs. And then lift. Roll the collarbones wide. So lengthening, widening, and then there's a slight turn. Then if you're at the wall, you can bring the arm up, or everybody can bring the arm up. The pelvis is open, the chest is open, and then we can really breathe into the pose. Notice that your head's not falling forward. Actually, bring the head back. Reach the back of the head towards your buttocks. So it's really the sternum and the lungs that are starting to lead the pose. Okay, to come out, press the left heel down, reach up and out through the fingertips, turn your feet forward, and then let's go the other way. Right foot in slightly, left leg out. Okay, level the hips, straighten the legs and arms, and then extend out through, I believe it's the left side of the body. Hand is on the block or on the shin under your shoulder. Other hand can be bent at the wall. Lift and spread the toes to come into your legs. Release the toes down, but have those kneecaps tightening, those thighs working. And with the hand at the wall, find the length in the ribs and then the broadening of the collarbone. You could do that without the hand at the wall, but the wall does help in that sense. Then bring the arm up. Okay, and then to come out, press through the opposite heel, reach up and out through the fingertips, turn your feet forward. Inhale and step your feet together, watching out for the wall. That's not a good idea to jump while we're there. Okay, now let's move into Parsvottanasana. So have the blocks both at one side of the mat. Actually, so yeah, let's try this and see what happens. Parsvottanasana is the extended sides pose. So have them on the right side of the mat, and let's come back into Tadasana. And Parsvottanasana has 3 stages, and we'll go through all the 3 stages. Well, let's see, actually, let's do the first 2 together and see if we're ready at the second to go to the next stage, or maybe we're not. So we'll have to check in with where you're at. So bend your knees, bend your elbows. Let's jump wide, just as wide as we need for Veerabhadrasana 2. Turn your left foot deeply in, turn your whole right leg out. Then bring your thumbs down to your sacrum. Now we're turning. So the other poses were lateral. We're turning towards the other leg and spinning that left heel back. Left hip comes forward, right hip comes back. Then we're going to pull the buttocks, middle buttocks in with our thumbs. Lift the whole front of the body. So this is phase 1 of Parsvottanasana. Elbows are pulling back. The chest is lifted because the shoulder blades are helping to spread them. And we look up to the ceiling. Look up. That left leg is straight, and we're looking up. Then we're going to bring our gaze forward and extend the ribs forward as we do so. Extend, extend, extend. So that was phase 1. Now we're moving into phase 2. Bring your hands onto the blocks under your shoulders. Come onto your fingertips if you need to, because here we want to, again, straighten the legs. Left inner thighs pressing back. We press the top of the right thigh back. Hips are level. And then we'll use the fingertips as traction to lift the front of the body forward. If your mid-back isn't coming in and you're on these blocks, if you need to go higher, you could get a chair. Because we want to feel that spreading in the chest. Arms are rolling out. We want to feel that we can breathe in the pose. Our sense of security, our sense of safety, our sense of freedom only comes if we're taking the props that we need. Then if you feel that you can breathe in the pose here, then go to the next phase. Otherwise, stay in the concave back, stay in what we were just doing. For the next phase, turn the abdomen towards the front leg slightly, widen the collarbones, and with that middle buttocks in, now lengthen the ribs. Shoulders are moving away from the neck. Find your breath in this phase. Really have the thighs lifting. Those thighs lifting are so critical for the freedom then to come in the spine. And then from here, draw your hands to your hips and lift up. Slowly but surely coming. Turn your feet forward. Move the blocks to the other side. Okay, then let's turn our right foot deeply in, left leg out. Pick up the right heel, turn it further back. I wish I could watch you all right now, but I'm not sure if all of you are as familiar with the pose. I'm going to demonstrate with you and do it with you. Okay, spin that inner right thigh back, move the middle buttocks in. Pull the elbows in towards each other and look up. Phase one. Thighs are engaged, front of the body lifting, lifting, lifting. So that we feel the breath moving here. Phase one. And then we go with this imprint into phase two. Thighs are lifting. We bring the hands onto the blocks under the shoulders. Now bring the hips so that they're level. So you have to press that inner right thigh back and the top of the left thigh back, kneecaps. So the legs, as Anne was saying, we start from the base and move up. And then lift the front of the body. Find your breath here. Feel the sense. If you can't feel it fully here, you need to bring the hands higher. Do that. If you feel that you're ready to go to the next phase, then bend the elbows out to the side. Straighten the legs once again. Lift the shoulders, widen the collarbones, and lengthen the spine. Slight turning of the abdomen. And then to come out, let's straighten the arms, bring the hands to the hips. Pull the tailbone in, elbows up to slowly come out. And turn your feet forward and step or jump your feet together. Okay, so let's try that one again. This time I'm going to come around to watch because I wasn't able to watch and I was a little wobbly the first time around myself. So I would love to do it a second time, but instead I'm going to watch you all because this pose is so important to go to the phase that's, that second phase and stay at the second phase to get that concave back in. And if you're not, it's okay to take more height. So that's now standing in Tadasana to recover.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, please.
When you're putting the elbows out, which direction are your hands?
When you're in the full pose, and you're coming into the final phase, you could have the hands facing forward. I think that, or they can face out a little bit. I haven't gotten, where you definitely have to have them one way or another, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, eventually we want to bring the hands down and even lift the shoulders. So this is sort of like a still not fully what the classical is.
Thank you.
Hope that answers. Okay, so now coming in from Tadasana, bend your knees, bend your elbows, and jump wide. Turn, bring the thumbs to the sacrum. Let's bring the arms down first. Turn the left foot deeply in. Turn the right leg out. And then spin that left heel further back. Okay, so we're turning the hips, moving the buttocks down, some of the very basic actions. Legs are straight. And if you're feeling like you're not getting the hips level, you can lengthen the pose and spread the feet out to the sides of the mat a little bit. Give your pelvis some room to breathe here. Okay, now pull the elbows back and towards each other so you get that lift and spreading in the chest. and then arch up and over, phase one. Find your breath in this phase. And then begin to look forward. Extend the ribs forward. Start hinging at the hips forward. Bring your hands onto the blocks. Now that we've come forward, we need to redo the legs. Yeah. So even spread through that back foot so that you can really get that heel down and that inner left thigh back. Press down the big toe ball on the right ball mat on the right foot and get that right thigh back. Then from here, middle buttocks is in and lengthen the ribs forward. Arms straight first. We're going to go for the concave back. Yeah. So come onto the fingertips because I'm noticing shoulders. Can you feel them lifting up to the ceiling? You feel the shoulder blades helping you to spread your chest? If not, then we're not fully in the concave back. We can't breathe in the pose. We need to breathe in the pose. That's what will activate the rest and digest. Yeah. Are you on your fingertips? I hope so. Because I know I have to be in order to get even near to concave. Okay. Then if you have the concave, then go into the next phase, which is for today, the elbows out to the side. Spreading the collarbones and then redo the legs, starting from the base. Middle buttocks is in and we slide the shoulders away from the neck. Abdomen turns slightly from left to right. There's a lot to do here, but we're just trying to really lengthen and find that same spreading in the chest so we can breathe. Okay, then straighten your arms. Firm the feet onto the ground so we have some stability. Draw the hands to your hips and pull up through the elbows. Tailbone in though, so we're safely coming out for our low back. Okay, then turn your feet forward. Let's go the other way. So I know why I'm not envisioning it, Judy. He has his hands on his back. Can you see that? So eventually we want to do Paschimottanasana in this pose, but that takes a while to get there. Turn the right foot deeply in. Turn the left leg out. Pick up that right heel, turn it further back. Now give yourself the space you needed. If you needed to move the feet to the sides of the mat so your pelvis has more space, do that. Okay, then phase one. Do you remember phase one? Let's see if it's imprinted now. There's that lifting and spreading. Legs are active so that they're your grounding to then lift up from. Arcing up and over. Okay, and then come towards phase two. Keeping the length and the gaze can be your sobriety. Bring your hands onto the blocks under your shoulders. Yeah, straight arms first and straight legs. So first we work from the base. Let's activate the thighs again. Let's see straight legs here. That will help so much. And then pull the chest forward. Look forward even. Look forward. We're getting the shoulder blades up to the ceiling and back away from the ears so we can get that spreading in your chest so you can breathe. Make sure the blocks are under your shoulders though, not in front, because arms won't be able to really support you here unless that happens. There we go. Yes, now we can breathe in the pose. Stay here. If this is where your work is, stay here. If you want to go further and you're ready for that, then bend the elbows out to the side. Release your neck though. Let that head go heavy. Turn the abdomen slightly from right to left. Take the same fundamental actions, straight legs, middle buttocks in, shoulders away from the neck, and lengthen the ribs. And these kinds of poses where there's so many different actions, once you've taken the actions, really enjoy the pose with your breath. For people with tight hamstrings, this is a wonderful pose to practice, but not an easy one. Okay, and then let's straighten the arms. Draw your hands to your hips, tailbone in, elbows up. Come slowly up if you can. That's another practicing of the balance. Beautiful. Okay. Let's turn our feet forward. Watch out for the blocks and step or jump our feet together. Okay. Hello. Let's now move into Prasarita Paratanasana. So let's have the blocks in front of the mat. So this is the wide-legged pose. So like so. And Prasarita Paratanasana, the wide-legged pose, is a basic first introduction towards moving towards inversions. So let's start, and that's getting ahead of myself because some of us might stay in the concave back because this has 3 phases, just like Parsvottanasana, extended side pose. So let's bend our knees, bend our elbows, jump wide. Okay, let's bring our thumbs again towards the top of the sacrum. Press down through the outer edges of the feet, spread the toes. We do this so often in the poses. It's such a grounding down. The element of earth was something BKS Iyengar talked about. We can really feel that here. Our security more so. That's been really challenged in these times. There's been so much that's shifted. So here we can feel our stability, our grounding down with our feet, but the lifting up of the arch. Thighs engaged, pull the middle buttocks in, then lift the chest, spread the collarbone wide and look up. Phase 1, feel the breath move. So much of this without weights, we're using our own body, our own musculature, really helping our bones and our muscles stay healthy by these actions. Bring your hands under your shoulders onto the blocks. It's that concave back we just were doing in the last pose. Come onto your fingertips if you need to. And if you're noticing in this practice that you're not getting that mid back in, next time you practice this, try to get a chair, or if you can, have the luxury of 4 blocks. I don't know about you, but I don't happen to have 4 blocks here right now. I would take a chair. Now we moved. So let's redo the stamping of the outer edge of the feet. We need to ground from the base up, thighs lifted. Middle buttocks in, lengthen the front of the body forward. Roll the arms out so that you can find room for that chest you've just brought forward. Now, if you can get the middle buttock back in here, great, and then you can move to the next phase. But if you can't, keep working here. There's plenty to do. Upper arm muscle goes into the bone to help. If you are ready to move forward, bend the elbows, move the blocks. Bring the heel of the hand in line with the heel of the foot. Just like you're now spreading your feet, spread your palm. Relax the head down. See that your buttocks is not falling back. Legs are active, middle buttocks is in, and then release the spine down as the shoulders go up. So we're finding that ability to breathe, width and length once again. Neck is long and soft. And now if you're trying, like maybe you're pushing and you're trying and this can't quite breathe in this, come back to the concave. You don't need to stay in here to the point where you're not finding your breath, because we really want to find our breath in these poses so that they're welcome respites when we need to use them. Keep pressing down a lift of the shoulders. And then let's bring our hands forward so that they're on the blocks, under the shoulders, arms are straight. Take a moment in the concave back. Stamp down those outer edges of the feet. Let's find our stability before we do anything yet. Okay, now draw your hands to your hips. Bring the tailbone in and pull up through the elbows, same way we came out. Okay. And then heel toe your feet together until you can step or jump your feet together. Let's start, because we're now been pulled off a little bit. Let's start on our knees. Have the thumb and index finger right at the wall.
Press down through the thumb heel of the hand and then keep that down as you move to the pinky heel of the hand. Oh, so delightful and comforting to be able to move from that right into these Iyengar focused movements. So we get the upper arm activated and then lift the upper arm to the wall. Now curl the toes under and lift your knees as you straighten your legs. So we're using the wall and pressing into it to move the hips back and open up that whole armpit chest. So here in this pose, we can finally let that head, that mind of ours that gets us into so much trouble, let it just release, let it go. This is so much to me. This has now come to symbolize a prayer. So I'm in the middle of, or in the morning when I'm feeling overwhelmed and I'm wondering how I'm going to manage what I have on my plate. This can be a prayer for that. And within moments of taking the pose, my breath begins to move. So if you're feeling you're more in your arms, for everybody, this thing of lifting and spreading the toes can really get us more in our legs. So do that, but then release the toes down, but keep the thighs lifting. Now, as you bring that middle buttocks in, you'll feel lengthening in the ribs, but you'll have slid forward. So then keep that length, but press again into the wall to move the hips back. In this way, we've now brought our mind into different parts at once, into our legs, into our arms. Our consciousness is spreading. The longer we hold these poses, the more deeply our breath moves. So come out if at any point you feel you need to. Otherwise, I invite you to let the pose take its more effects on you more as you hold it longer. And then walk your hands to your feet to your hands. Bring your hands to your hips and come out. Okay, let's set up for headstand. So I haven't worked with many of you, with a lot of you here. So I want you to do what's going to be safest. We lost a little time. Let's see. Hopefully we'll still be fine with ending. But for this practice, if you're not coming up, that's fine. You can still do the little bit of the basic. And the reason why I really encourage, except if you have neck problems, if you have any neck issues, do not bring your head to the floor. If you're fine to do it, but you're not ready to come up, that's fine. To do the prep is important because the top of the head, and there's a YouTube video on this that I was watching today with BKS Iyengar talking. Inversions are so important in the Iyengar practice because there's a way in which the pressure on the head really even further engages our parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest. So I highly recommend this. But again, if you have neck issues, then don't bring the head down. So take the mat, fold it in half twice. And I will, for those of you who want to go up and have a longer time and you're completely at ease with this pose, do that. Otherwise, for those of you that aren't, I'm going to demonstrate. And I'm demonstrating slightly away from the wall for those of you that are ready to move off but aren't quite sure. So I clasp my hands. I bring the wrist and forearm down to the floor. And so I'm going to demonstrate for those of you who are not practicing regularly with an Iyengar teacher or at the studio. I press that down, lift the shoulders. Then I press through the elbows, broaden the collarbones. I do this at every phase. So now I'm coming here. I'm going to do it again. Press down to lift. Press the elbows down to broaden. If I'm ready to come up, I come one leg at a time. Now you can come with bent knees. Or you can come with straight legs. See what's going to work for you today. But if I'm not ready to come off the wall, but I'm working towards it, this is one way to practice. Once up, I do the same thing. Lift the shoulders. Press the elbows, broaden the collarbones. Back of the neck is long, and then I can experiment with one leg at a time. Now, there's no need to come up if you're not ready. All of this work down here is plenty. When you need to rest, you come down. Now, once you're finished and you're spent and that's it, you're going to come into Adho Mukha Virasana, downward facing child's pose with your hands. Same way as we had Adho Mukha Svanasana, so you can find the length in your neck to recover from any pressure from Salamba Shirshasana, the headstand. Oh, I see many of you are up already. So just remember the same actions of pressing the forearm and the wrist down to lift your shoulders, and then pressing the inner and outer edge of the elbow to broaden your collarbone. Yeah. And if you're not coming up, that's fine. The action, all the work to get there is actually, it's a lot more. I used to sweat a lot. Now the pose is much more graceful from having practiced the basics. And then I see somebody taking it in ropes. That's fantastic. You can really let go and release there while you're spreading your pelvis. That's wonderful. Often for people who are up, the floating ribs are jutting forward. Bring them back as you bring the tailbone in. Once you're up, lift up through the ball mound of the foot, hug the shins in, and really have the legs begin to take the whole lift of the pose up. I see some of you are regular practitioners. Some of you look like have had it. Come into your downward facing dog where hero's pose where your knees are out to the side. Okay, for everybody, let's now come down. If you're coming off the wall and you want some to practice stability, coming in slowly and coming down, keep one heel at the wall as you bring the other down. Will help you begin to practice coming down slower. Yes. And then come into your downward facing hero's pose, Adho Mukha Virasana. Use your arms to really get those same actions you did in downward facing dog so that you find room around your neck, space around there. And then let's slide your hands back and slowly come up. Slowly. So Adho Mukha Virasana is a forward extension. If I had plenty of more time, I would introduce more forward extensions because they're so calming. And they're introduced in the second week of the month. So there is a different focus each week of the month in the more traditional way of teaching Iyengar. And so with the series that I'll be teaching, we'll be able to really sink into how forward extensions affect our emotional self. And then the next week, back extensions and restorative and so on. Today, we're just touching in. And so that was a little bit of a touching in on the forward extension. Now, I want to hit into one category that is really great if we can practice it on a regular basis, which is abdominals. So much when we practice abdominals, we now have worked in an area of our basic self. But this is Arda Navasana, half boat pose. For many people, we topple over in this pose, so I'll just demonstrate. I want to have almost the legs distance and just a little bit shorter. I'll bring my hands behind me like crocodile, like Makrasana, hands clasped, shoulders down. I'm going to lean back on my sacrum and bring my feet to the wall so I don't topple. So I'm not toppling. My gaze is right at my toes. And then we'll release. Okay, so this is Arda Navasana. It's an intensive abdominal.
Rebecca, what's it called again?
Arda Navasana, the half boat pose.
Thank you.
And so for some people, they do feel like they're going to topple a little bit back. So make sure that there's nothing behind you that you're going to hit. Sometimes I've seen people put their feet under the couch so that they won't topple, or under, if you have a bed where you have a frame underneath, you can have your feet under that. Clasp the hands, come down more onto the sacrum. Have the legs basically straight at the wall. Yes. And then here we let the chest cave, one of the few poses. Okay, and then bend the knees, bring the hands back to the floor. Okay, how was that? Bend your knees, bring your hands to the floor. Okay, we got some experience of that. Now, what I'd like to do is to use the chair. So there's a pose that to me is my saving grace for after I eat. So after I eat in the middle of the day, I often feel heavy from eating, but then some anxious energy about what I need to do next. And this pose helps me relax, but also rest my digestive system. This is one of the few poses that's recommended after you eat. It's called Supta Veerabhadrasana, but I'm taking it with props because I don't know about people, but there are not many people I know who can necessarily, and I didn't know who was coming to this class, who can immediately go into Veerabhadrasana without just straight on the floor with a bolster. And so I thought I'd introduce it this way. I'm just demonstrating. Knees are together, feet are out to the side. Now, when I come back, I need a block. When I come back, I want the bottommost shoulder blade to come onto the chair. So I'm in Veerabhadrasana, the hero's pose, and we can talk about that when I see what's happening for everybody. And then the bottommost rib is going to be on the chair. So can you see how much spreading? It's almost like that bridge pose, Setu Bandha. Sorry, my gosh, I got this liftment and spreading. Upliftment and spreading. Then I bring the block under the occiput bones. And I have so much spreading in my chest. If I can grab the chair rungs, it's really helpful because now I can lift the ribs. Now, when we come in, one thing I'm going to say is I'm going to press down, lift the tailbone in one length in the low back, and then come back. So I'm hoping that it's easy enough for you to set up like this. If you take Supta Veerabhadrasana regularly with much less props, feel free. Okay. Oh, good. I use the wall there so my chair doesn't slide too much. Not sure if you don't have a wall there, if it's going to slide. So the knees are together. Feet are out to the side. Yes, plenty of people use their hands. So this is what I'm noticing in case anybody wants to see. It is not set in. My feet, knees are together, feet out to the side. I like to, instead of moving the whole muscle, which kind of feel like can tweak a little bit of this area, I press the muscle back. It's up to you if you're practicing regularly and you move it out to the side. Then I come down. Okay, then I press down with my fingertips, reach the tailbone in and come back with the bottommost ribs. So we're arcing up and over. Then the block goes so that the back of the neck can be long and my arms, with my arms, I grab the chair rungs. From here, let's stamp down the inner shoulder, spread the collarbones, and lift the ribs. So now with your breath, you can fill your lungs, and with the exhale, release your abdomen. I'm hoping you're feeling how much space this pose can give to your abdomen with the whole upper body moved away from it. Okay. And then let's bring our hands back down to the floor and come back up to sitting. You know what I had failed to mention, and I just thought of it now, is I don't know, because I know that there's somebody in here in the class who has some knee issues. Next time, for those of you who have knee issues, this is still inaccessible. You don't have to have the knees bent in Veerasana. It's very accessible to just take this with the knees bent and come up and over, because this is worthy of that. So I want to just mention that now. Now let's take a little Ustrasana to really emphasize what we just did in one of the preliminary back extensions. We'll need a blanket, and if you have a bolster, if not more blankets, and I'll demonstrate what we're going to do as we face the chair, where we'll use our fingertips here to lift and spread the chest. The shins are parallel to the knees. We're lifting and spreading the chest, then we bring the hands here. We're going to lift up, but keep the hips at the chair, lifting up and over like we did in the phase one of a couple poses, standing poses. Then we'll bring the hands here. Now, if you have any paining in your neck, just look forward and feel that sternum lifting towards your chin. And then if you feel release in the neck, only then will you come up and over. Then we'll sit down and even actually take the block off from the chair for behind you, because we're going to take a twist after we sit down to reset our sacrum. So let's try that. Ustrasana, the camel. Because there is such an exhilaration the back extensions give us. I wanted to, because of this focus on mental health, bring that into today's class. Great. You all seem to pretty much have a setup that's working. Okay, let's go in together. Okay, so having your hands first on the chair seat. Have the middle buttocks in. Press the inner knee down so you feel almost the inner groin moving back, inner thigh moving back, and a spreading of the sacrum. Okay, now, so we're up in Stumpasana. So this pose is actually called Stumpasana, where we're on the shins fully and the hips are touching the chair, the front of the chair. Press the hands down, lift the ribs here. Then slide the hands back towards the inner thighs and begin to bring the shoulders back, but keep the middle buttocks in so much that the hips are still facing, touching the chair. Then flick your hands to your bolster. Now, with the hips touching the chair still, middle buttocks is in. Lift the front of the body, bringing the tricep, that upper arm muscle, into the bone. So the shoulder blades are conspiring to help spread the chest and lift it. Middle back is in. Breathe through the pose. Try not to hold your breath in this pose. If you're ready, you can look up and over, but sense if that's going to be safe for your neck. And then press through your fingers, come back up, and come to sit down on your bolster. Okay, that's all as opposed to try twice. So press through your shins, come back up into Stumpasana. If you don't want to have the bolster there and you're regularly practicing, do it, but only do it if it feels like something you really are feeling moved to do. Otherwise, let's just stay where we're at. It's late. Okay, press the chair down, lift your chest, then fling your hands behind you, first to your inner thighs, rolling the upper arms out. Keep the hips at the chair, coming up and over with the ribs. Then flick the hands to the bolster. Upper arms are rolling out, yeah. Lifting, hoisting those ribs up. Looking at the chair, you can really sense what's happening with the sternum, and it's lifting and spreading. The chest is spreading, the sternum is lifting, yes. And then if you're ready, look back, up and back, like water pouring out of a jug. And now press through the fingertips, come back up, sit down on your bolster. Take a moment sitting on your bolster with your hands on your thighs to bring your tailbone in. I want you to reset your sacrum here because there's a real bending, as you know, in the back extension. And notice, let's take a moment here, just notice your breath. Notice your energy here now that you've done a back extension. And then take the block from your seat, if you haven't already, place it behind you. And let's take a twist. First to your right, bringing your left hand to your outer right thigh, bringing your right hand onto the block. Just like we did in the chair, lift the spine, roll the shoulders back, elbows can be wide out, and turn, pressing the left hand into the thigh to bring those lift ribs around, pulling through the right elbow to open up that whole right side chest. And then turn to face forward. Lift the front of the body. And then turn to go the other way. Bring the right hand to the left thigh and the left hand to the block behind you. Since I'm doing it with you, I got the right and the left down. Bring your right sit bone down as you bring the right ribs especially up, and then turn. Allow the breath to now move through your pose, through your twist. Okay. And then let's release. So I'm thinking, let's see. I'm hoping that plenty of people are familiar with shoulder stand and Setu Bandha Sarvangasana, and we'll take whichever one at this point feels most appropriate. And for the shoulder stand, I'd like to use the wall. And the reason I'm offering both is because I'm not sure if everybody is practicing or if you're menstruating. If you're menstruating, you want to take Setu Bandha Sarvangasana. So first I'll show the shoulder stand setup, and then I'll show the other. So again, if you're menstruating, you're not going to want to come up into shoulder stand. And maybe you're not practicing shoulder stand. But I'm hoping then you're familiar with the other pose. I'll show them both regardless. So shoulder stand, we take at least 3 blankets to keep our neck safe. Now, why shoulder stand? Shoulder stand, it's one of the reasons why I was happy to teach this class on a Wednesday evening. At this time, for me, it's become my pose of choice right before bed. It is one of the ways in which during this pandemic, I've had some intense periods of insomnia. And the shoulder stand, the way it activates the rest and digest, to me, it's, and the Jalandhara Bandha, it's when the chin comes into the notch on the collarbone, draws my energy in. And then I'm much more, I have especially if I've been on the computer, there's a way in which my energy is settled. And I am much more likely to sleep restful. My chances of insomnia go down severely. So I'm like, that's worth it. So have the block pretty close. If you're on the shorter side, maybe 5 feet and under, right up close, a little bit taller, could be a little further away. Then when we come down, and I'm just going to demonstrate quickly. I'm hoping, because I think it's at level 1 for this class, but I'm not sure if everybody is. Thumbs distance in for the shoulders. If this is your first time seeing this, I don't want you to do it. I'll show you the other pose for that. Then I press through my feet. Normally you wouldn't practice at the window, but this is the best. And I don't recommend this, but this is the best alignment for the video camera. Otherwise the room's too narrow. Then I'm going to clasp my hands behind my back and roll the shoulders under. Once I'm like this, I'm not going to turn my head because that's too much pressure on my neck and spine. Then my hands come under and scoop my ribs up. Then I'll bring one leg up. If I'm not secure, I won't bring both legs up. I'm pressing those elbows now down to help with the lift. If I'm ready, then I come with both legs. Okay? I love it when, if my shirt is slippery like this, I just pull the shirt down and get my skin. I'm not going to do that right now, but you can see how I'm coming out. So please take this if you've practiced it before in an Iyengar studio and you're not menstruating. If you haven't practiced it, but you know from the look that I just had and what I'm telling you about my sleep that you want that kind of pose, you can get it with the bridge pose. I start up very close to the wall. If you don't have a bolster, you take a lot of blankets. I'm starting very close and then I slide. So the bolster is moving the skin away from the neck. Then I bring the feet to the wall over the block. Head is on the floor. And I get that heel to the wall before I straighten my legs. Hoping you can see this, the camera's right. Roll the upper arms under. And I have my bridge. If at any point the low back hurts, bend the knees. There's no reason because we can still get this upliftment here. Okay, so either you're in shoulder stand or you're in Setu Bandha Sarvangasana. Or you're moving to one. Okay, once you're in either pose, if you're in Salamba Sarvangasana, actually, make sure that you feel the buttocks lifting. Sometimes we have to separate our legs slightly and then really bring the middle buttocks in and then lift up through the inner edge of the leg. With your feet and Salamba Sarvangasana, spread through the ball of the foot. Yeah, get some aeration there and have the legs lifting you up, but then notice what you don't need to continue holding on to. Soften your jaw and chin, everybody in both poses. Soften your jaw and chin, relax your eyes, and allow the breath to move. Inhale, filling your lungs. Exhale, releasing your abdomen. There's a drawing in for each pose where we begin to smooth out the breath. Normally, I would love to keep us up there for longer, but I am wanting to get one other pose. I want to get one other pose in for us. So if we can now begin to bring our legs back to the wall. If you're in Setu Bandha Sarvangasana where you're on the bolster, bend your knees. And everybody, you can, with your knee for the Salamba Sarvangasana, release the hands, slowly bring the back down. Knees in towards your chest. If you're on the bolster, roll to your side, everybody, and then slowly press down to come slowly up. Okay. So yeah, I'm hoping you got a little bit of a taste right before bed of the kind of relaxation that pose can give you. The reason I wanted to do this one pose before Shavasana is very specific. This pose, Adha Mukha Swastikasana, is to me one of the penultimate poses to take when we have any kind of maybe something suddenly has happened in our lives, something overwhelming, some grief, some trauma. I find that this is the pose to take. It's the downward facing cross-legged pose. It's also a fantastic pose to take after some back extensions, which we did and we moved a little quickly out of. So I want to do this pose. We extend the legs straight, but you need to have, so you'll notice I have some blankets that I'm sitting on, but I have some mats. I bend one leg, then I bend the other. I place the blanket on the chair and I come forward. We hold so much in our hips. Now, and this pose can release the hips while calming the mind. So much emotions can be stored in the hips. So much resides there. Now, when we are doing this, you might feel some real tension in the hips. In that case, you would press one foot down, roll the hip in the socket, then press the other foot down, roll the hip in the socket. And we're just relaxing forward. It's fine if the back rounds here. We can just let the breath move there now. Bye, Mitch. It's good to see you too. And then slide the hands apart, press down as you come up. If you can, extend the legs straight under your chair for a moment so we really recover the knees. It's an intensive stretch. And then bend the other leg in first. And come forward for downward facing cross-legged pose. And then slide the hands apart. Press down as you come up. And let's set up for Shavasana. Hopefully my voice is not too low. I just noticed in the chat now, somebody said the audio was low. Hopefully you can hear me. Let's set up for Shavasana. Now, if you're having any low back tension, one of the best Shavasanas I know for low back is to turn the chair so there's a little slant. And then for everybody, whether or not you're using the chair with a blanket on it, have 2 blankets for your head. So maybe you want to have the shins on top of the chair for your Shavasana, or maybe you want to have your legs straight. But I find this is one of the best ones for if there's any low back tension. And since the chair is there anyway, there we just release the low back, even if there's not major tension there. Lengthening the buttocks forward though. We want to always first align ourselves in this pose. Roll the upper arms under. We want to have enough blankets under the head so that we have the head is up higher than the nose, which is down lower, and your gaze is drawn inwards. Then we roll the upper arms under and then let go into our corpse pose, into our breath. I want to give you some time to reside in Shavasana. We might go a couple minutes over. And so when we end the Shavasana, I'll also be available for some questions, but you're welcome to do as feels fit. If you want to stay in your Shavasana, you're welcome to do that. This releasing in Shavasana of our identity, any connection to the past or the future, enables us to Breathe more deeply, integrating the practice holistically. So if you need one point of attention to draw your focus in, notice your breath. Inhale, and on your next exhale, draw your hands to your abdomen. As we slowly return to the room from that deep inner sanctum, bend your knees now in towards your chest, roll to your side. And then on your side, it's like revisiting where we're about to go. And then press down as you come up slowly. And let's chant one Om together, noticing the difference in our presence, in our being, in our body, and how much more settled we may be. Om.